Let's pick things up there for tonight's Political Insider. Joining me, Kevin Cirilli, reporter for The Hill. All right, Donald Trump and Jeb Bush are trading barbs over 9/11 after Trump suggested George W. Bush was responsible for the terrorist attack. Now Jeb's fighting back. Kevin, Jeb Bush has basically ignored past comments from Trump. Were these fighting words this time that he just couldn't avoid?
You know, I think that at this point in the race, former Florida Governor Jeb Bush is going to have to respond to anyone who is attacking him simply because he still is in single digits in the polls. You've got to remember, Morris, that former Governor Bush won what's known as the pre-election campaign period and raised big bucks from all of the establishment donors. And yet he hasn't been able to convince voters in Iowa or New Hampshire or any of the other voters across the country, really, that this is his American moment and that this is the right time in our nation's history for another Bush to be the Republican nominee. There is so much anger in the electorate, and essentially what Mr. Trump just did is take what is arguably one of Governor Bush's strongest policy positions in the Bush brand of politics and attacked him for it. And now Governor Bush is once again on defense and off message.
One thing Trump has managed to do is define Jeb Bush throughout the whole campaign. What is Trump's strategy in all of this, and does it serve Bush any good to bring up his brother's presidency?
Regardless of what you think of Mr. Trump's political strategy, there is no question that Governor Bush right now is on defense and not talking about the issues that he wants to. And he hasn't been able to break through the crowded Republican field. There's still plenty of time. He still could recast himself and relaunch himself, but he's also facing a lot of the same political opposition coming from Senator Marco Rubio, who, quite frankly, a lot of the Republican donors are giving a second look and saying that perhaps Senator Rubio is the better one positioned to be the new Republican, if you will, standard bearer for the party,
yeah, who
for
would
the
have thought,
establishment.
huh? Who would have thought?
No. Yeah, who would have thought to say, it is right. You know, I interviewed Mr. Trump last week in his Trump penthouse tower in downtown Manhattan, and he strikes me as someone who is not going away despite the whisper campaign just a few weeks ago, and even really last week in particular, where people were saying that Mr. Trump was on his way out. He's not going anywhere. He fully intends to keep going.
And who would have thought, too, that Jeb Bush would have to be worried about the other guy in Florida, but that's definitely the case. Now, there are some who say Donald Trump is right about 9/11 and that W could have done more to prevent the terrorist attacks. What's your take?
You know, it really doesn't matter what my take is, but what I think this does is really force a conversation about the terrorism, politics, and policy that we have more than, of course, all of these years after 9/11. And so I do think that what we saw during the 2012 presidential cycle is that President Obama was able to campaign off of killing Osama bin Laden. And so now Republicans are trying to criticize former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton for her time at the State Department, but they're also going to have to come up with new ideas for how they would handle foreign policy. And something that former Governor Bush has tried to do is capitalize off of the Bush political brand, and right now he's on defense.
All right, let's switch gears to the Democrats.
Yeah.
The Biden for president rumors continue to swirl as a new poll shows a growing number of registered Democrats think the VP should not run. This as Biden is reportedly meeting with his top advisors tonight. Now, how much would a Biden bid disrupt the Clinton camp, and what about Bernie Sanders? Bernie's nobody's worry, is he?
Well, you know, I think that Vice President Biden still has a huge opening to get into this race simply because if you look at the mood of the country, if you will, people are really craving an authentic, off-the-cuff, candid politician. And I do think there is something to be said for Vice President Biden not being a Clinton or a Bush. And quite frankly, I think that as Hillary Clinton continues to face questions surrounding her use of her email server, that FBI investigation still ongoing, and of course she's set to testify on Capitol Hill about the Benghazi attack later this week. I think that a lot of moderate, more pragmatic Democrats are going to be taking a second look at Vice President Biden. He gave a major policy speech today touting his energy record. And, you know, this is someone who is going to not be shy, not be forced to make a decision simply because of other people. If he decides to run, his supporters argue it's because he thinks he has the best vision for the country.
It's always good to get your insight. Kevin Cirilli, reporter for The Hill. Thanks again, Kevin.
Thank you.